glad you're here. Today we're going to talk about the first stage of recovery from estrangement by your adult child. The earlier video, the first video in this series, was an introduction to the concept of recovery and what that might mean. So let's move into the first stage of recovery from estrangement. The first stage of recovery from estrangement is called the sounding stage. And at this point in the estrangement process, the parents, we're trying to ascertain the depth of the estrangement. So we're not really sure how serious this is, how long it's going to last. We have very limited information from our children. So this stage is really one of confusion and a few other emotions that typically accompany it. One of them being shock. So as I said, we begin this stage in the recovery process with no idea if the estrangement is temporary or permanent, partial or total. We're wondering, are our grandchildren cut off as well? So there are a few names that this estrangement continuum goes by. And so in this early part of the estrangement continuum, first stage of the recovery process, you might hear low contact and no contact as the two ends of the estrangement continuum. I prefer to use the words functional estrangement versus radical estrangement, and we can talk a little bit more about that in another video. But that's what we're partly confused about, is exactly what does this mean to us and our life. So at this point also, part of the ambiguity are mixed messages. You might be contacted for money. You might be contacted if there's a need for a babysitter, but contact is only at the behest of your children. You really don't have any control in that. So the confusion that sets in this sends us off looking for answers. What do we do with this situation? So on top of it, estrangement may be a new concept. So for some people, it's like a one and done. It's a total shock, and there's no, in their mind, in the parent's mind, there's no leading up to this. And sometimes children will say, oh, how did you not see this coming? But many parents will say they didn't see it coming. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Again, we'll talk about that in another video. But we're still trying to figure out what's going on. How bad is this? And so I like Faye Autumn Avis's definition or example. He likens this to the depth finders on fishing boats. You don't know what's under the water. You can't see where you are as far as depth in any body of water. So you use a depth finder, and it sends out a series of signals that you hear on your depth finder as pings. And so the pings can let you know that they've located something under the water. And parents who are newly estranged by their adult kids begin sending out their own version of pings. So you might be sending emails just to see if you'll get a response. Friendly, upbeat, how are the kids? And deciding how long does it take them to get back, if they get back. You might send text messages. You might make social media posts or reply to their social media posts. And trying to figure out just how bad is this. And so if you don't get a response, or you get a request to stop communicating, it's going to suggest that the estrangement may actually be much deeper than you first believed. You could also on the other end of this, get an angry response. And even an angry response can be ambiguous, because our first thought with an angry response is, okay, they don't want anything, let's just step back. But then again, depending on what's said and how it's said, we might be thinking, wow, this indicates just how much pain they're in. Are they hoping that we'll reach out again? Or is this truly a signal to just stay away? This is sort of a leftover from parenting when our children are smaller. When children are hurt or angry, disappointed because you've said that this something can't be done right now, they may throw a temper tantrum. They might just sit into a puddle of tears on the floor. And really, they want a hug. They want acknowledgement from us that their feelings are hurt, that they're disappointed. Even if we can't change our mind, they want to know that we still care. And so the anger of our adult children can feel the same way and create confusion now because they're adults. So we're wondering, do they really want us to step forward and reach out again as a sign that we love them and we care and we want to connect? Or is this truly their way of just pushing us away and trying to create space that they need? So we're not quite sure that if this is like the energy that they're using to make the break, or if it's an invitation to come into some conversation. In addition to the ambiguity, we're dealing with shock. Even if we're not sure what they want in this moment, or if our pings come back with some questionable results, we're still shocked. We're shocked that anything like this has happened to us. It just seems as if things were going fine in many cases. There is a real unknowing. And many times what I'll hear from people who are describing the event to me is something along the lines of, but we were so close. We did everything together. We never fought. He or she was such a good kid. And there's total shock that now it's gone from this relationship that they thought was perfect or idyllic for a parent and child, or parent and adult child, to a complete break in the relationship. So really, they never anticipate that this estrangement is even a potential consequence if something should go wrong. So you mix the ambiguity, the unknowns, the unsurety about how to approach your children, your adult children, with all of this. There is uncertainty about the future of the relationship. Does this mean we'll never speak again? Does this mean we'll never see our grandchildren again? The uncertainty about that is, at the very least, destabilizing for a parent. So you may feel like you can tell people about this. You may have a few close friends or a close friend who you can talk to about this and get mixed messages from the people you tell. So some people may point out that this, oh, don't worry about it, it's going to be temporary, they'll come back, just be patient. Some will say don't reach out, others will say do reach out. Clergy, therapists, you may get a lot of mixed messages, and this makes it even more confusing for parents that have begun. And so part of the sounding stage is reaching out to others for advice, or just a sympathetic ear. But then others might give advice like, well, I would go right up to them and I would knock on that door and I would tell them just how they're so awful in what they're doing. Others might say, don't reach out at all. Let them come to you. You just will get a lot of different responses to this. So another thing that could happen with this is that you fall back to old strategies for dealing with anxiety. Some might be healthy and helpful, and others might not. So, healthy, helpful distractions might be that you stay socializing with people, but you socialize more than you ever did. But some of the less healthy ones are the ones that become worrisome and can even make the family situation worse. You might begin overworking. You might begin underworking, calling in sick to work. There might be a once in a lifetime or a never before use of substances, or you may be returning to substance use or abuse in these situations. And all of this can appear right alongside mood swings. And this, the mood swings are going to appear as your feelings swing from hope to despair. And you're hopeful, and we get upbeat, and it's like, this is going to be okay, it's going to work out. And that could be not just from hope, it could be that hope could be triggered by something that you read or heard from your child, just as the despair can be triggered in the very same way and send our mood plummeting. So as time passes with no reconnection, the anxiety levels are going to increase. And when that anxiety level increases, all of our bad behaviors can increase. We can have difficulty with other relationships, but it may also be, and is hopefully, the impetus to get us to move into the very next stage. So each growth stage has growth opportunities, signs of growth, and potential pitfalls. And I'd like to take a minute at the end of this soundings stage to share with you what those are for this stage. So in the soundings stage, the growth opportunity is reactivity management. And what that means is we have so much going on, so much that could trigger us because our emotions are so raw that we can become very reactive. We can be easily agitated. We might be short-tempered. We might find that we have very little tolerance for any sort of error that we make or someone else makes. And so learning to manage those reactions so that we aren't creating conflict with people that we live with or work with is an important step in growth. As we look towards recovery and understanding that recovery is what can help in the reconciliation process, one of the biggest things that we need to learn how to do is manage our reactions. We will talk more about that in a future video as well. In the soundings stage, the signs of growth are honoring boundaries set by the child. If you are able to honor what they have said, as extreme as it may be, that is a sign of personal growth and not being reactive by breaking those boundaries. Another sign of growth might be your own personal recognition of unhealthy coping mechanisms, or the ability to hear someone else say to you, gee, I noticed this or that is what you're doing to cope with this. And you can hear that and admit, yes, I guess that is true and I need to address that. Another sign of growth would be participation or development of healthy coping mechanisms. So finding things that are healthy for you and help you to stay focused on the here and the now and not be ruminating about this situation at all times of the day so that you can get on with life. And the potential pitfalls of the soundings stage is an anxiety-driven sense of urgency to end this, and it could have you breaking boundaries with your child. And so the growth opportunities, the signs of growth, and the potential pitfalls are all linked together. And the reactivity management is really the skill that we could address for our entire life. But this is a really important time to be looking at it because we are trying to reconnect, or hoping to be able to reconnect with our children. The next stage is exploration, and we will talk about that in the next video. In the next video, we talk about exploration and what I have found is by the time somebody comes to my office, typically about a situation like this, if they even come specifically for the estrangement, many times people won't. This is where they have arrived. They're in the exploration stage. So that's the next stage that we will be looking at as it relates to the recovery process. I hope this first look at the first stage in the recovery process, the sounding stage, has given you a little comfort to know that your experience is shared. It may not be a happy experience, but you're not alone. If you think this series and this video in particular could help other people that you know, or might even just be able to help friends of yours understand what you're going through, please feel free to share a link to this video for them. If you would like, in the comments below the video, please feel free to share what your experience was at this point when you first had this experience of estrangement, or when you started to really question the depth of this estrangement, or maybe even the meaning of the estrangement for your future. And as well, if you would like to be able to know when the next video is uploaded right away, like this video with the thumbs up down at the bottom, and also subscribe. And when you subscribe, by clicking on the little bell next to the subscription, you can choose to be notified when a new video is loaded onto our channel, and then you will be able to access it almost as soon as it's there. Thank you for listening today.